It's September 8th, 2019. You're listening to Fancy Ramen, episode 131. How to pronounce Atelier. Atelier?
I'm your boy, adlʻyā.
And I'm Just Scott.
And joined with Just Scott and adlʻyā is Neil. This week we talk about Demon Slayer Kimetsu no Yaiba.
We quickly go over the revealings of September 2019's Nintendo Direct.
There's lots of talk about how dead Scott is and how weird my vacation time was.
And we round things off with a handful of video games. Some Sly 3 Houses spoilers.
All this and more on Fancy Ramen, episode 130.
One. Atelier. And that's how I got this third arm. So how have you guys been?
Besides recovering from almost a week-long illness, I'm also recovering from like 2 consecutive vacations, sort of.
2 consecutive vacations?
More or less. I've had a very busy two weeks, I think, and that's the time since I've been on the pod. I went to Vancouver for a week, and then I came back, and I got really sick, and then I started to recover, and I went to a work event that was over the weekend, but also mostly it was a vacation. Like, I had to be present and doing work responsibilities for maybe an hour and a half total, maybe 2 hours if we put in the 30 minutes of me just like putzing around and being sort of helpful. But then the rest of it was also a vacation. So now I'm finally home, finally doing the things that matter, like my laundry.
How long can you last without doing laundry?
I can last quite a while. I have pretty good reserves of clothes. I have more clothes than I really need. I have more clothes than I cycle through before like I do laundry, because I definitely have a preferred wardrobe and then a backup. I definitely need clothes or underwear right now wardrobe. So I could probably stretch for 2.5, 3 weeks. I do laundry roughly on a weekly basis,
Damn.
week and a half.
So the way you were describing it, I was thinking you were going to be like going on for even longer than that. But I can get 2.5 weeks before it is, I don't have any underwear now.
If I lived in a world, yeah, exactly. Underwear is the limiting factor. If I lived in a world where all I had to wear was jeans, I could go half a year, without, right? Because like you can wear jeans for quite a while before you have to wash them.
Until they're physically dirty.
I mean,
that is when they get washed.
Yeah, I might actually argue that the only reason I couldn't actually go 6 months with the jeans is because my bare ass would be against the jeans, and so I'd probably have to clean them more frequently.
You don't think you sweat enough in the summer to constitute like a wash every 2 weeks or so?
Who's wearing jeans in the summer? I mean, I have to wear long sleeve, or not long sleeve pants. I have to wear like full length pants when I work, because I work with hazardous chemicals and whatnot, and so it's a safety concern. But like as soon as I get home, I'm changing into shorts every single day. And I'm in like a terribly frigid environment when I'm in the laboratory. My bench alone is like 3 degrees Celsius colder than anyone else's bench, because I have an AC unit like blowing in my face all day.
That sounds amazing, actually.
I cry about it literally every other day to somebody. Like, I just can't handle it. Also, because I was sick, I got some like biometric medical data back, and I run at a very stable 96.6 degrees Fahrenheit.
Hey, that's what my wife runs out.
The target temperature for a human being is 98.6. So
My wife runs just a little bit warmer than you.
I'm 2 degrees off. I went to a science museum when I was in Vancouver, and in front of a thermal camera, I saw that my nose was like straight up the same blue color as the background temperature of the room, and my hands disappeared because they were also the same temperature as the room. Like, my circulation is so poor that I would be a military asset because I'd be nearly invisible on a thermal scope. You can't kill me in Resident Evil 4 because you can't target my heart.
I forgot that was a mechanic.
But I've been good. How have you guys been?
Yeah,
I've been
Cookie,
good.
How's that third arm treating you?
Oh, it's pretty good. It was a wild trip to, I almost said Montana, but close to Montana, when I went to Yellowstone National Park and fell in that sulfur
big hole?
geyser.
And that's when you found out that it wasn't actually just sulfur, but radioactive sulfur, and became a superhero?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
They
Except for the
renamed
superhero
Jackson.
part.
They renamed
really
Jackson
lazy.
Hole to Cookie Hole. You're the most recent person to fall in it, so you got to claim the name.
Yes.
I mean, no jokes. I think someone recently committed suicide. I don't know if it was committing suicide, but I think it was intentional.
It was definitely someone being stupid and jumping into what he thought was a hot spring.
Oh.
At least that's what the story is, that he thought it was a hot spring. And no. I don't know how you can make that. No, it's very warm near the geysers and all the springs. Warm enough to where you're actively watching the water boil.
So
why would you jump into boiling water?
Oh, okay. So there was water. I was wondering if it was one of those like unfortunate optical illusions where it looks like there's water and you jump and you keep falling and not being supported by water.
Where you just clip through the earth?
Well, you don't clip once you...
Wait, I don't get it. Are we talking about the latest EA game?
No, what game is that?
No,
Should we
I'm just
transition?
making a joke about how there's a
okay.
lot of games, involving clipping through the earth.
Look, clipping through buildings in Assassin's Creed is a technique and not a bug.
Clipping through the ocean in Black Flag is a technique, not a bug.
Yeah.
Clipping
Why
through
swim when you can clip?
Clipping through the water cliffside of Sekiro Shadows Die Twice is so that way you can fly swim is a speedrunner strategy.
Oh, is that a thing? Have you seen that?
Yes.
Oh man.
They were doing Sekiro and Games Done Quick. Really interesting to watch the playthrough through.
Oh, I should have watched that. I would have liked that a lot.
Good news is YouTube's exist.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, but yeah, I took some time off. I also had 2 consecutive weeks of vacation, at least from the podcast. We got the Japanese girls again this year, and they were a delight. I just recently found a pair of socks in my backseat of my car that just have the most adorable little narwhal on them.
They're not getting back to Japan, though, are they?
They're not getting back to Japan.
No.
Are you going to smell them? Like, lock yourself in
No.
a room and sniff them incessantly?
No. No, I will not.
Neil, you don't want to reveal those kind of things on air.
I'm not that kind of person, but I do read manga, so I know all about it.
But the thought came to mind immediately.
They were super excited as I was like any Japanese thing that I would do is just like mind-boggling. I feel as if I had this conversation with you guys already.
I don't think so.
Maybe not.
Okay. But yeah, so like whenever certain people call me, I always answer the phone mush mush. So they were just like,
Which is not, I mean, you could say it's Japanese adjacent.
well, it's like instead of going mushy mushy,
Yeah.
I just shorten it a little bit more. And they were like, oh my God.
I thought they said, they being the governing body that gave these vulnerable kids to you, told you not to be Japanese or not to act like a weeb.
Yeah, so last year we did not act like a weeb, and it was, by the end of it, I was kind of depressed. So this year I was just like, fuck it, I'm just going to be myself.
Mm-hmm.
So we had rice. They actually made us dinner one night.
That's
and
awesome.
It was delicious. They made us yakisoba. So it was the real stuff. And it was
As
delicious.
opposed to the fake stuff like that we eat and don't realize it's not actually food.
The microwavable stuff, yeah.
Yeah, as opposed to
Which
the
is-
microwavable stuff.
I mean,
Honestly, also good. If you wait a couple years between like eating it, it really does seem like an amazing meal.
and the
even though
sodium
it's
intake
box
will also
noodles.
be diluted enough by then too.
Yeah.
No, there are some, or were some as well, decent yakisoba places, or places to get yakisoba in Omaha.
Mm.
So,
No, I could dig it.
Yakiniku Boy Sushi Japan. I could be mixing those two things up. It's one restaurant though. They
I've
recently
been told
closed,
that they're closed.
They
yeah.
did
Yeah.
close.
but they
I found out about
legit
them
had some of
the
the best
week before they
Japanese food in
closed.
town.
They
Well,
did.
yeah, they were probably the most legit source you could find in the city, but I don't know if it contributed to them finally closing. But I'm almost certain that
Oh no, Yoshi-san
old-
was just Yoshi-san was just
retired.
old.
they will be missed. They were
Mhm.
very, very kind people. They once gave my sister like a whole armful of veggies from their garden because they just liked her as a customer.
That's nice of them.
Rest in peace.
I know. She was just like leaving and they were like, "Oh no, you must take these veggies. Like these are yours now. Make Japanese food with them."
But yeah, so I had the Japanese girls over, and then we went to Then after the Japanese girls left, we made a quick skedaddle up to Jackson Hole, Wyoming, where we proceeded to hike, see beautiful vistas, and struggle to breathe due to altitude.
Yeah.
So are you just in that constant highness, Scott?
Yeah. When I come to Omaha, I can beat any one of you in a race. And I know I'm saying that like you two are recording the podcast with me, but this is a direct challenge to any other listener. I will outrun you. I've been doing high altitude training for 2 years. I am any anime where you see them take off the breathing mask or like remove the weighted shoes and gauntlets. I will outdash you.
No, I don't doubt that. Like, honestly, the first day we were in Jackson Hole, it was like, okay, I'm going to go up this slight hill. Holy shit. It was like 4 steps. I'm not this out of shape, am I?
Any
Oh,
distance
yeah.
you travel when you're in that kind of elevation, you can almost like double or triple compared to what it would be like at your preferred elevation.
Yeah.
I think when I was in Vancouver, like Vancouver's sea level, right? I walked like 10 miles every day easily, and it was a breeze because I'm used to like getting killed after 3 to 4 miles of walking with like half as much oxygen available.
It's kind of dumb or funny to say, but you can make your life so much easier when you're in high altitude just by focusing on your breathing more often. Like, it's second nature to breathe, but if you actually physically remind yourself to like steady your breathing and breathe more consciously, it makes your life much easier when going to places like Colorado and, well, any high altitude area.
Well,
Thank you for this tip
yeah.
now that I'm back in Omaha.
I mean, as Demon Slayer has taught me, breathing technique can, unlock just like very powerful uses of the human body.
Are you sure it's not Demon Slayer and it's JoJo? Rather, that taught you about breathing techniques too?
I guess breathing technique is just a big thing in general. But now instead of slaying vampires and undead creatures, it's specifically demons. I guess it is still sunlight. It's still sunlight that's killing them. I didn't realize that the reason I'm enjoying Demon Slayer is because it is the spiritual successor to the original JoJo's.
Actually, yeah. No, it totally makes sense.
There's
Good
more in
show.
common than I expected now that I'm thinking about it.
Okay, tell me a bit about this this anime. I'm assuming you're watching the anime. I read the manga, maybe like 40 chapters into it. A while
my
back.
Gosh.
And
Just All I can say, Neil, since you've read the thing, slight spoilers, the fight with the guy with the Takioko drums,
Taiko
Who can-
drums?
Tomioka. Yeah.
the taiko drums, whatever they're called, who could like change the perspective. I saw the panels on the manga of that fight. You've got to watch that fight in the anime.
Doesn't
Like,
do it justice.
Oh, it's so good.
They use CG in this anime so beautifully 90% of the time.
Yeah, I would.
Everyone's-
Oh,
after
go
you.
ahead. No, please.
I was gonna say every once in a while you get the janky. Why are they using CG for this person walking at this very steady click
Mhm.
at this very manageable angle? But then you get scenes like that stupid. Then you get scenes like the drumming episode where they're using they built the room in CG and are flipping everything around to change the perspective, and it's fucking beautiful.
Yeah, I think that's actually one of the things I find most impressive about this anime in particular is they use 3D animation, obviously to like save effort and money and whatnot in certain like repetitive or like low detail or element scenes. But they also use it at times for like this super dynamic camera that I imagine would just be like mind-numbingly difficult to animate by traditional like hand-drawn methods. And so they have like uncanny valley moments 5%, 10% of the time when they do that, but that's so overshadowed by these like just like 3D massive panning cameras or like zoom in sequences that they do. Like utilizing the technology to that advantage for just these gorgeous, like action-rich scenes. Very similar, I think, to the thing, like the times that Attack on Titan would have these very dynamic cameras while they were, say, swinging or using the 3D gear to approach Titans. It's very much in that vein of like you're just getting this. I guess bird's eye view is only dedicated terminology to like overhead. But if you were a bird flying next to like the main character through a scene, like this is the kind of view that you're getting from it. And it is so damn pretty. Oh, I love it. The drum one is, I think, the best first example. And then there's another sword fight a little bit later, or there's another demon fight a little bit later with this like spider web demon where he's like dodging through this giant array of like razor sharp spiders threads, and the way that the camera pans through, like it's weaving through the webbing just like the main character, is spectacular. I mean, it's just some gorgeous animation, and the 2D animation is very beautiful too. They just have this amazing like bold line work that they do.
Oh my god!
During the
that
sword
water
fighting,
effects.
the water effects, there's some fire effects that are very, very cool in that particular like spider fight scene. And the color is like really, really bright. It kind of reminds me with some of them, like if you ever see the big streaks of like graffiti along like a long alley wall or something, where you have bold line work and then like kind of bright or neon colors that are coming through those like bold outlines. It's such a pretty art style. I'm a sucker for it, and the show's been a lot of fun.
Did episode 19 have you get you feels, Scott?
Yeah, I've definitely gotten like I think goosebumps from one or two scenes that they've had in the show. They also have very, very awesome pairing with their soundtrack. Like their music is super diverse for like this is a shonen anime. I mean, this is not it's not necessarily geared to an audience of our age or maybe necessarily like interests as much. Like this is going to appeal to this will be the Naruto or something of like the upcoming teen generation or whatever.
Add in a dash of sister complex.
Yeah, I do have a note here that says Deus Ex Emoto that I should get to when we talk about Tanjiro, the main character's sister Nezuko. But it is not necessarily designed to be for me as a viewer, as opposed to like it has someone else in mind as its target audience. But like the pairing of the music and the writing, it's very satisfying to watch. It's actually like it's elicited an emotional response on a couple episodes, and it has such a beautiful like attention to detail in all of those media elements, whether it's the fact that there's a way more diverse soundtrack than I hear in this like general type of show. Like shonen normally don't have that much diversity in their composition, or the fact that there's just like some gorgeous art that kind of catches you by surprise. It is a delight for the senses.
Yes. I've
So
got nothing.
I know. Are you keeping up with it then, Cookie? Like,
So after watching episode 19, I told Lizzie we have to watch this, and I told her just give the first 2 episodes a chance, and then when things really start kicking off, you'll just want to go through it. We got caught up in 2 days,
yeah.
so she is also keeping up with this.
Yeah,
we
I
haven't
gotta-
watched the most recent episode, but
Right, because that would have
So good.
probably just come out like within the last day or two. Yeah, it's one of those where I watched the first and second. I was like, okay, this is kind of neat. I like it. I'll check it out. And then I think I got to like 4 or 5. Like I was watching 1 or 2 episodes a night. And then I don't know. There was a point where it clicked. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna watch 5 in a row. I've got the time. I'm doing chores. And so it becomes very easily bingeable, but there's not that many episodes, so it also is very easy to catch up to what's currently going on.
so good. Just so
Mhm.
good. I don't have anything to add besides that. You said you wanted to go over the...
Oh yeah, I guess I could talk about the characters really quickly, but I also feel like when I wrote this, which was before this last weekend, it was before a larger cast was really introduced. But I'd say for the main characters like Tanjiro and Nezuko, they've been very fun protagonists, as Tanjiro is like the most like emotionally intelligent shonen character I've seen in a while. I would say he's got like a very empathetic streak to sort of it has that third person omniscient lens for the viewer, where you can understand, or limited omniscient, I guess, where you can understand what the main character is thinking for the most part. And at various times, I think you can also get in the head of some of his allies, but it's mostly limited to Tanjiro. And the thing that makes him kind of very different from a lot of other like shonen protagonists, especially from the shows I watched growing up, is he's actually like a very kind and sympathetic character, even to like the demons that he's facing. They present the demons not only as antagonists, but as like tragic figures for most of his interactions. And so a lot of these like monster of the week scenarios get paired with sort of not always a sob story, but just like kind of an emotional like connection with the character that Tanjiro is normally hunting in that case. And instead of being just like driven with like purpose and rage, which you would expect out of his character from, the start of the show, he has like a respect and almost a serenity for like his I think victim is probably the most appropriate word. He has like respect and like understanding of his victims in each episode as he slays them, and it's a very like nice twist that I wasn't expecting. It makes the battles a lot more pleasant, and I think they're more memorable and meaningful in that way as well, instead of just figuring out the trick to beating this guy and then killing them and being like, well, you suck, you lose, time to move on to the next episode. Like there's a little bit more time given to all of the characters that are introduced, even if they're, a one-off antagonist.
Yeah. And I guess only thing I don't want to add to that is kind of just a thought of he's got all the innocence of the shonen characters, but like a realistic amount of it though.
Mm-hmm. He's not naive. He's not like stupidly naive to his own detriment.
Yes,
I mean,
that one.
from what I remember, a lot of that naivety is addressed in the earlier parts of the story.
Yes. And they do that in the anime as well. I mean, it's not like he just like instantly is making the right decisions, but he has a very believable and reasonable growth to his like worldview and actions. Like over a short period of time, I think you see him grow and learn, and he develops into a more rounded character almost immediately, which it's satisfying to see that growth happen so suddenly, but also that it like continues to develop over time.
Yeah, especially given the situation that he and his sister enter in, like by what I'm assuming is the end of the first episode.
Yeah, I believe the first episode introduces his primary, driving factor, which is his sister. One of his sisters gets turned into a demon, and the rest of his family just gets straight up slain. So it's a pretty direct push out into the world of being a shonen action hero. When they kill off your family and turn your sister into a demon, that you can't really go back to selling, what is it, charcoal?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's right.
Yeah, that's what he was selling.
It's almost got like, I mean, it's still like shonen, and the theme of the entire, or I guess I could say the mood of the manga at least, is still like much lighter than a Vinland Saga or Berserk.
Yes,
but it has a lot of that
origin.
narrative to it, if that makes sense.
It's I guess it's like you're just viewing it through a different lens, right? Like there's more positivity and sunshine and more like I don't know, humor and innocence than you see in these other shows.
Well, yeah, I guess in like a seinen manga, which is, like the older version of shonen. Yeah, the change would be that the sister doesn't survive the initial, like the start of the episode or the start of the series, and that
or she's not immediately pacifiable. Like in this, his sister becomes a cooperative element like immediately, right?
Yeah.
In something like Berserk, he'd literally be having to like
he'd be the one killing
chop off
her.
Yeah, he'd
right
have
away.
to chop off her limbs to restrain her or something.
Yeah,
it's like the internal pain of doing that, but they're not going to explore that because that is little too dark for
15-year-old kids.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure there are some 15-year-old kids that are ready to explore like that level of like storytelling, but I don't know if that's this is meant to entertain. It's not meant to maybe like provoke or stimulate a particular like bouquet
I think
of
it's
emotions.
in Shonen Jump. I could be wrong, but like that's a good underlying thing to remember as you go through the story.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and it hits a wide variety of the anime tropes. I think what's nice is it has these small little flourishes that do differentiate it. Like the mentor is kind of a stern, stoic person, Urodaki, and one of the things that makes him stand out, I think, from other like I guess sensei trope or stereotypes from other like shonen is there are a couple moments where he like really expresses a very, very quiet and subdued, but like absolutely perceptible to the audience, like tenderness or compassion for his student Tanjiro and his other students. Like they have a moment where he's like crying behind his mask, and it's just like normally you don't see the mentor make that kind of emotional they don't have that kind of emotional expression until either way later or it just like never happens. It's like it's the stern guy who will never say I care about you, but he does, but he'll never say it. This one, it's like he's choked up while he's trying to say I care about you. And
it took Naruto's teacher the entire series to like get to that point.
Right. Exactly. And they both wear masks, and yet one of them you never see his eyes, and he's still way more expressive than the one whose eyes you do see.
Yeah.
That's about all I have to say about Demon Slayer for now. It's a fun show. If you're looking to fill the bill, like it's pretty to watch, and there's not much of a drop in the entertainment. Like I've enjoyed most every episode I've seen.
I think the first thing we should address on the video game side is the latest, and this would be September 2019, Nintendo Direct, in which we got some really
Big
interesting news.
Oh, yeah. I'd say big for you, probably, right? Deadly Premonition 2 is probably a big Neil thing.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
They released another video I just saw actually before we were recording. Have you seen this like circle, like this movement controller thing that Nintendo is, they have some like hype video out right now in which it's completely unexplained, where it's people all around the world like playing with this controller, and then one of the other Joy-Cons that isn't slotted into this weird circular bendable hoop is like strapped to someone's thigh. They say that more details will come out on the 12th of September, but right now I'm very uncertain as to what it is. It looks like a it's obviously like an apparatus for motion controls, but I can't tell if it's for like, we're talking like the Wii, like the Wii Fit little platform type of peripheral where you're going to have I guess mini games or whatnot to use it for, or if we're talking about like they're going to release an Olympic Switch game and this is how you like do all of the physical movements for the activities or something.
I mean, this has got to be for like a fitness thing, right?
It looks like a fitness thing. I mean, because the actors, or maybe not the actors, let's say that these are not actors at all, but the regular Joes who have gotten to try out the controller, they're all doing like pretty directly physical actions with it. I mean, they're not using it like a steering wheel by any means. They're squeezing and stretching and like inverting their bodies and whatnot with the controllers.
That'll be interesting looking at what develops from that moving forward. I mean, it's not crazy to say that there is a market that they could potentially return to, being the Wii Fitness people that, you know, got the Wii for that reason.
Ooh, she's flexible. Sorry, Kyoto.
The other things in the announcement, I think like we don't necessarily have to dwell too much on some of the video game content that we saw, like what is it? The Machina game that basically looks like Front Mission, but even slicker and more stylized.
Damon
X Machina. In addition to that, we also saw some Animal Crossing, and like it seems like that is essentially just more good, so to speak, for people that love Animal Crossing. And even I thought Pokemon looked pretty decent, the footage that they showed. I'm also a big fan of curry, so when you bring in the British curry aspect, I love food, and I get hyped about that for like who knows why. When it's in video games, it's not like I'm going to eat the video game food.
Curry is good no matter what region it comes from.
And no matter where it is, whether it's in books, literature, music, video games. So I feel bad for kind of brushing that stuff aside, but I just wanted to acknowledge it. The other big thing that I think took me by surprise, and I don't know if you guys knew about this beforehand, but Toby Fox being involved as the composer of Little Town Hero, which is a game being developed by Game Freak. That was surprising.
I did not
Toby
see
Fox
that
of
coming.
Undertale game, by the way.
So he's making moves with Nintendo because he also a Sans like Mii Fighter skin was added to. It was a Gunner skin was added to Smash. So he's got essentially two things that he's contributed to for Nintendo in the short term here. It would be nice to see if that can turn into some like money to support Toby Fox, maybe taking a crack at the following iterations of Deltarune.
It makes me
More hopeful?
It's a cool thing that he's getting involved with this, especially when like Japan fucking loves Undertale. Not to say that we in the West don't, but
I was gonna say it's kind of a smash hit in the indie scene here as well.
But it's a really, really it's like unequivocally stronger in Japan too, and I mean that as like a shock because the response in America or in the Western world was already extremely strong to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know, like it's cool to see him involved in other games. I do kind of wish he just didn't, so he could focus on Deltarune though. But in hindsight, I'm wondering if that also means that maybe there's someone involved in Deltarune that we don't know about that has ties to Nintendo. I mean, I honestly don't want Game Freak working on Deltarune.
That would be terrible, right?
Like, yeah. I mean, it's a 2D game. Maybe they could manage fine with that. That was also the other thing. Like, I don't necessarily have like high hopes for what Little Town Hero is. I think it looks interesting, but I also like don't think Game Freak has a great record with 3D games. And the more I saw the game in action and what we heard about the battle system and so forth in this Nintendo Direct, actually kind of turned me off from the game
like
a little
more. It's like a
more.
card game, right?
It looks like there's some very
mechanic,
shtick type combat system.
It's like Slay the Spire without the like intricacy, or what's the game that I'm interested in? Griftlands. Like
right.
A lot of games are picking up this card game mechanic. I don't know if any have like exploded with popularity like Slay the Spire, but
which I don't know. I feel like this is one of those moments where someone's getting really excited about a band and I just don't give a shit about the band. But also because
How dare you not give a shit about the band?
Well, but you know what I'm saying? It's like when everyone started to really like what band is Pete Wentz?
Was that Fall Out Boy?
Yeah, it's Fall Out Boy.
Okay.
When everyone got onto the Fall Out Boy train, I was getting into like a lot of punk rock, and so I was like, no, man, fuck that. But now I can go back and be like, yeah, it's not my favorite music in the world, but it's catchy and it's melodic, and like I can't fault anyone for liking it. I feel like I'm having that 17-year-old response to Slay the Spire right now.
It's just very funny to hear that, knowing that while you were getting into punk rock at that time, I was getting into middle school, and so still outside of the Fall Out Boy bubble.
Slay the Spire. It doesn't help that the guy in front of me at work would always just watch Slay the Spire streams constantly while he's not doing work, and I'm just like, what the fuck? Like, why aren't you watching GTA 5 roleplay, man? No. No, yeah, Toby Fox being involved in Game Freak, that's interesting. I think he's yeah. I don't necessarily have to say much more than that. Anything else you guys got from the Nintendo Direct that you found interesting?
The fact that they brought Divinity Original Sin to it and the fact that Divinity Original Sin 2 updated the base game to include very popular mods on the PC for all the console generations.
Did you also
for all the consoles it's on?
Did you catch that it's also cross save?
So yeah, it's also cross save
with Steam.
So Yeah, I honestly didn't really give a shit until I heard I don't even know if it was in the direct, but then I read
is in
that
the
there was a
direct.
cross save.
It's at the very end of the video about that. They're like, oh, by the way, if you like playing the game on the computer, you can just move the files over to the Switch and vice versa.
Right, which that seems really, really like the biggest part of that news to me is that not only can you play it portably, but like because the Switch might not be the ideal way to play that game. That who knows? Maybe it's actually maybe it's PC, maybe it's not.
It feels nice. It's basic. It's really comparable to the
PlayStation
playing
4.
on the PlayStation 4.
So it's cool because you can take it on the road with you, then come back home and play it on like your big screen if you want it.
Yeah.
So I now own Divinity Original Sin on all 3 platforms that it's on.
Hell yeah.
Nice.
Well, at least 3 platforms.
Honestly,
because I don't own an Xbox.
It's kind of so far I found it to be completely worth it, which is something I can't even say about the other games I've purchased on multiple consoles in the same way.
Hey, I just bought
Yes.
Catherine for the 3rd time, so
Oh.
and I
It's all
definitely
Joker.
haven't put as much time in those games as you guys have on Divinity.
But you will in due time. It's
That indeed.
It's weird that it's having a moment. Like I didn't expect or anticipate this. I hadn't even heard of the game until within, the last like 6 months. And now I'm hearing more about it than I ever thought was possible for a game that is more than 2 years old.
So when
Are we talking about Catherine or Divinity?
Divinity
I guess
still, I
Divinity
think.
is about 2 years
Okay.
old. Yeah. I don't give a shit about Catherine. Sorry,
So
Neil.
when are you going to go back and play Planescape Torment? Because I think that game in particular would be fun for you.
How old is Planescape Torment?
God, like early 90s, I think.
Yeah.
I could be wrong. Maybe mid 90s.
I get worried about playing games that are my age.
Okay. The first companion in Planescape Torment is a floating skull. Like just a skull. It does not have body parts.
Is it like the bubbles in Zelda, like Ocarina of Time? They call them bubbles, and you know what I'm talking about. It's like the flaming skull that floats around. Is it like that, or are we talking just like this skull?
No,
it's like the skull
just
was
a skull.
just on top of, say, like a green screen pole or like bodysuit, and so everything else is blending into the background. The skull's just floating at head height.
The second one.
The skull though is like sarcastic and
Oh yeah, everybody loves a good, buddy companion.
cop skull.
Yeah, a buddy cop
Exactly.
skull. I assume he's bad cop, right? Like I don't see him being good cop unless he's like, "Hey man, I'm just trying to help you out. I don't want you to end up like me, a floating head."
I could be completely wrong, but like when I played the game, and granted this is years ago, I always envisioned the skull of having either a Cockney or like some sort of cheeky ass British accent.
Uh-huh.
It certainly enhanced the enjoyment of his dialogue for me at least.
I might look into it.
Was it voiced?
I always teeter on the edge of going back and playing like the first 2 Fallouts, which are very old, and they do crash more often than they actually like load up on my computer. But on the times that I feel motivated enough, I think I really should push through the first couple crashes to try and play.
Yeah, you should look at good old games in particular, because if there are fixes and stuff, like quality of life improvements,
Good Old
that
Games
site does a
that.
good job of, leading you down the correct path.
What I was going to say was, though, the quality of life improvements that they brought to Divinity Original Sin 2 across all the platforms, beautiful. Scott, one of the things that they brought to it is a mod that gives you a 75% walking speed increase while out of combat.
Oh, too good to be true.
How does that work when you have multiplayer going, though?
It casts it to your entire party.
Yeah.
So what if
there
one
is...
person's in combat?
Oh, well, then
That
the other
person-
person would
the other
still
person's
have
not in combat?
75%
Yep.
bonus.
The other person's got that bonus then.
When you play this, Neil, you will note that multiplayer actually does have the single broken element of, and I guess it's not broken because to be inflicted with turn-based combat when you're not in the combat would be truly just incredibly unfair and painful to deal with. So there is a combat area or like radius that exists, and until the other player like crosses that barrier, unless they're sneaking, because then you can sneak through it and still be out of the turn-based combat, which allows you to land sneak attacks as a team, which is very, very fun.
God, we've cheesed so many fights.
Yeah, you are able to essentially have, and we've had to when Cookie and I have played, cheesing fights is sometimes the only way through because someone has started a fight they did not mean to. And so you really need that buddy to pop in and kind of rearrange the battlefield's surviving members, I should say. But it's nice. It will actually allow, it could theoretically allow, say, 3 or 4 players on a multiplayer game to have 3 or 4 completely separate fights. It would be a terrible idea, but it's possible.
Hey, if everyone's running Lone Wolf, then it's a great idea for everyone to be separate.
Yeah, the Lone Wolf team. The
2 of 2 and 2. But
yeah.
So that's one of the mods that's permanently in all 3 versions of the game because they added it to the PlayStation version as well.
Mm-hmm.
The Magic Mirror is now in the Fort Joy Arena.
That's good.
So you can respec characters at the beginning.
As opposed to at the very end of the island when you've already committed probably 8 or 9 levels to specking.
Yep, and bought all the tomes for a specific thing. And it's like, I really don't want Fane to be this. I'd like him to go into this.
That is such a huge improvement for beginning players because I've probably played through the beginning on like a dozen occasions now just because I didn't like how a character was spec'd halfway through the island. And I'm like, I'm not going to play with this build for the rest of like the prologue.
The island.
Yeah.
But no, so they did that one. The walking speed. Pet Pal has been tweaked.
Mm-hmm.
So you do have to enable this mode, these improvements.
Mm-hmm.
But Pet Pal's been tweaked where if you take the Pet Pal perk, all animals will have a 100% positive attitude towards you.
Oh, that's
but
nice.
Everyone can speak to animals.
Okay.
So you no longer have to take Pet Pal. You no longer have to waste that attribute point to take Pet Pal in order to get certain quest lines.
It is a very weird and niche skill, but I don't know if I've ran without it. Like the times I've run without it, I've made someone pick it up later because it's so useful.
It's very useful, and I'd rather not have to pick it up. I'd rather just have it.
Yeah. These are really great facelifts.
Yeah. They also have a you can start a garden. If you have a plant, you can put it in an empty bucket. And you can put that bucket down somewhere, water the bucket, and watch that plant grow. So there's only one blood rose in the game.
Right.
And if you make a potion out of that blood rose, it's a permanent +1 stat boost to all of your base stats. Until you die. You can grow those roses now. And I think there was like one other one. It was like a maximum of 8 attribute points.
Do you feed it corpses? Because that's how the blood rose happens. Like, do you have to take a body of a slain enemy and like put it on top of the pot?
Oh, that'd be great. I have no idea. I haven't used the garden aspect yet.
Okay. Maybe you put the pot on the body so the roots can, really dig in there.
But yeah, so they they're like, hey, these were the most popular mods on the PC, so PlayStation users, you get it. Also, we're launching on Nintendo Switch, so Nintendo Switch users, you get it. The graphics are a little bit janky on the Switch, but overall it feels nice to be on a 1-hour car drive out to a little bit past Lincoln and be able to play Divinity Original Sin 2. It's nice.
Yeah. And I mean, kudos to your driving ability to be able to play a tactical game like that and drive at the same time. I am like very impressed.
Well, thank you. We only hit 3 pedestrians.
Yeah, Neil, I'm excited for you to play this game. It is very good. And those, like all of those, each one of those particular edits is like a huge, I think a huge boon to new players and old players alike. Like those are really, really nice tweaks.
That 75% walking speed Oh my god.
I think Larry. Oh, go ahead.
I guess really the question is whether I'm going to get to Divinity Original Sin 2 first or Control, the latest game from Remedy,
Tell me about
Are you
Alan
Control.
Wake and so forth. I'll tell you what I'm not doing right now. It's not playing Control because it's on a 1-year exclusive deal with the Epic Game Store.
Uh-huh. Oh, I
that's
do
not good.
remember seeing a video for this.
So I saw that it came out, which is surprising because I did not get any reminders or advertisements or anything telling me it was coming out. Well, maybe it has to do with the fact that it's not on Steam. And also because it is basically unplayable on PlayStation 4 and Xbox, regardless of if you have the One X or the PlayStation 4 Pro. Like the game just does not play well or maintain any stable frame rate. So I just wanted to bring it up to everyone's attention that this is the first time the Epic Game Store exclusivity issue has actually affected me. So
I'm sorry.
Rip.
If it makes you feel any better, I was actually just convinced to get an Epic Game Store account.
Oof. My
Because
apologies.
they give you free games.
Yeah,
I'm not going to play any of these free games.
But I
but I want them
I
just in
also
case.
don't like the idea. Like I don't understand why the Epic Game Store launcher has to actually track my Steam stats too.
To make sure that your gaming is all encompassed in one, I guess.
I don't know. There's like I realize everything that we have has some amount of spyware and tracking on it.
Right.
But I just continue to read article after article and post after post about what the Epic Game Store launcher does. And I'm just like, I don't necessarily need to have even more bullshit and bloatware on my computer than I already do.
Bloatware. All of it.
If you got that space, bloat it.
Eggs, yeah.
But I've picked up a few different games, a couple of which I started replaying GTA 5's story mode. It was I don't know what possessed me to do it, but like I really actually enjoy the single player campaign from GTA 5.
It's really good.
Yeah, it's solid. I got to the first heist, which is like albeit one of the more boring and simple ones because everything kind of goes your way. And it reminded me of like why I like this game so much. There's also something that I didn't notice the first time I played through the game too, because like the first time I played the game, you better believe I kept going to like the classic rap and sometimes Radio X or is it Channel X stations. And that's all I listened to. And sometimes I'd go to the oldies rock. But this game, I'm purposely just turning it to off all the time. And partly because I'll be listening to like a podcast or watching a stream or watching videos or doing something while I'm playing. But I noticed that there's actually a game soundtrack that comes in
When the
rarely,
car is
unfortunately.
off?
Well,
Or when the radio?
So it might. I'm not totally sure when it actually cues in because sometimes it will when you're in a vehicle and sometimes it's when you're not in a vehicle. And if I've ever talked about this game before, it really reminds me a lot of Bully, which is another Rockstar game that has, in my opinion, like one of the best soundtracks Rockstar's ever had in a game before. It really sets the mood for Bully in a way that like, I think it as soon as you take away the music, you lose a sense of this magical school feeling, and not magical from the standpoint of Harry Potter, but kind of in the sense that when you read or watch Harry Potter, like you have the world built up in front of you, right? And playing Bully, it's like a similar experience. You feel like you're actually part of this horrible boarding school. But that music, every once in a while, like I'm going to guess maybe 5% of the time actually comes through in bits and pieces in GTA 5. And it actually does such a good job of kind of like building you into the scene or like the story beat that you're about to do. And it's such a shame because it only happens then and there. And I don't think there's any other way to trigger that music to come back up. It's not as, it doesn't get as unique and interesting as the Bully soundtrack does because that's such a very different game aesthetically.
Right.
but it's such a nice little boost to an already like good story or campaign in GTA 5. I think the other thing too is that there's actually a lot of decent writing in GTA 5. And I say like decent and with like the I mean to that to be like a compliment, because I don't think a lot of games have good writing in them typically. And there's a lot of cheeky one-liners in here. Like everything that has to do with Michael and his horrible family. Michael is also a horrible person, mind you, but all of it's just all tongue-in-cheek, all like humor-filled, sarcastic, and at times a little too pessimistic. But I've grown to appreciate that a little more, especially when you're taking the game in more of like a casual affair as opposed to like trying to, play the story and get through everything. And as for another game that I've played in the past, but picked up again, Final Fantasy Tactics. I'm playing the PSP remake. I only want to say, and this is maybe not a surprise to most people, but like the updated script to that game where everything's taken like a little bit more of that fictitious old English script rewrite. It's not really like a positive. It's more of a lateral move. It doesn't seem like the script is any better as a result of the update or the relocalization. And at times it's kind of confusing because much with any fictitious old English, sometimes it's hard to tell whether they fucked up a sentence or if they intended it to be fucked up, if that makes sense. But all in all, it's nice to get back into it because there are a lot of small details that I definitely didn't pick up when I was playing this game back in 97 to like 99. The story is not like disappointing me in any regard there, but it does turn out to be a little more direct than I remember it being. And in a completely different vein, I picked up a game called Atelier Sophie, which I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Atelier series, but it's whether or not it was originally developed and created by this company, it is currently being developed by Koei Tecmo, the same people that also worked on Fire Emblem Three Houses. And, Dynasty Warriors and Romance of the Three Kingdoms. Granted, Koei Tecmo is a huge fucking company, and they have a lot of different things. But I actually saw some interesting parallels between, like, the way they handled cutscenes in Atelier Sophie, which is, I think, like a year and a half old, and Fire Emblem Three Houses. And I started to wonder if maybe there is some overlap there between the development teams. But Atelier Sophie, it's a super light-hearted RPG where you play as an alchemist girl that is essentially just trying to fill up her recipe book. And there's other sort of plot points that I'm not going to get into. Just wanted something that's like really lighthearted, and this is absolutely filling those gaps in. And the cast, the one thing I'll say is that the music is really solid. It's not like Shoji Meguro. I'm not like getting overhyped, and I'm not setting my ringtones to it and shit like you would for Persona 5 and so forth. But the soundtrack is really, really solid though. Really enjoyable to listen to and just have on in the background while you're, grinding and doing stuff like you would in a JRPG like this. And the cast and character design is actually spectacular. Like there's a lot of, because it's not like a serious game, there's a lot of funny, weird stuff going on with each of the characters. One of the guys you get is essentially like a farmer's son who's on the heavier side, but like his costume reflects that of his status as a farmer's son. Like his hat is a gourd with like a brim attached to it. He's got different types of vegetables assorted around his outfit. But I mean, even
so he grew out of the garden.
Basically. He's a giant tomato too if you just look at him from like an overall perspective, because the green gourd hat is his stem. His body is very round and red. But even aside from like the jokes and stuff, like there's just so much attention to detail that they put into the characters that like you look at them, you look at their character models and their artwork, and it's like the perfect representation of the 2D anime image that they made and the 3D model. They're like, I wouldn't change anything about them. It's like a perfect translation between the two forms or mediums, which like I think at times gets lost in a lot of other games. Like, I mean, even Persona 5 has this problem to some degree, but Three Houses absolutely. But yeah, I'm excited to see where this goes. Like, I don't really have high expectations of this to have like some crazy plot, mystery, etc., etc. Just a like lighthearted RPG fun, like a similar in vein to like what Rune Factory would be.
Mm.
And that's about all I did this week. I played Three Houses, but I did not. I don't necessarily feel the need to go into that until I finished my third route.
Okay, we'll wait for it. I will like to let our Fancy Ramen podcast listeners know I have officially beaten another video game, and that game is Fire Emblem Three Houses.
Oh, very nice.
I will not be beating it again.
I am gonna really quickly note, I am 100% sure at this point that the Edelgard route, or I'm gonna say maybe both of, obviously there are fucking spoilers, minor spoilers here. I think there is something really strange about Three Houses, and that is that the Black Eagle paths, plural, are both shorter than the Golden Deer and Blue Lion's path, and in fact also don't have certain features in the game like animated cutscenes or FMV cutscenes that you have.
There are those type of things and other...
Yeah, and Blue Lions and Golden Deer.
Huh.
And they're shorter? So you mean I took the shortcut in beating this game? Fuck yeah.
Yeah, so I can't say that path for the
Golden Deer.
Spoiler, but specifically the fourth path that you can only get on the Black Eagle's path.
So the one I took?
Right. Those two, like, so I can't say for that, but I'm guessing that that's as short as the Black Eagle's path. Because the Blue Lion's path and what I'm seeing on the Golden Deer path, both not only have, like, an animated cutscene, but also have more time and chapters and months or battles.
Wait, very quick bit of curiosity. Are we talking about and we're saying minor spoilers, so there are two paths with the Golden Eagles, and or Black Eagles. I don't know which one constitutes as the path you're talking about. That's the very short path.
I think they're both short.
Oh, okay.
I'm guessing that they're both short, and I don't know why. I maybe it's because it has the split in that path, but like as a result, I was satisfied with Black Eagles when I played it, and I'm still satisfied with it, like from an overall standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
But after playing Blue Lions and now, like, getting pretty heavy into Golden Deer, I feel like they cut short a lot of what they could have done with Black Eagles as a result, and like I don't necessarily understand that from a design standpoint.
They knew that this black kid named Chris Rhodes, who goes by Cookie, would not have beaten it if they made it any longer. It was quite literally, okay, by the time I thought I was at the last battle, I had one more battle after that, and I was like, fuck me, there's one more battle, and then that battle, I was down to 2 of the Divine Pulses left. To the point of, I probably should have just started the fight over, but I just Divine Pulse to the very beginning of the fight. I was like, now that I know that this is going to happen here, and this is going to happen here, and this is going to happen here, Divine Pulse, very beginning of the fight. Okay, here's how we're going to run it.
Yeah. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. You're good.
Oh, I was going to say I'm about to battle against Claude, and I'm wondering how many of my Divine Pulses I'm going to use. Just like Claude has launched another surprise attack, and I'm like, okay, back to right before I positioned into that trap.
It's funny because, and granted, the first time I played through the game, I was on classic or not classic. I was on casual and normal. But like every time a trap got sprung on me, it happened to be with Petra in that vicinity. And it was just like, I guess they're all going to get killed by Petra the next turn.
See, anytime anything that sprung on me, it was always either fucking Dorothea or Bernie. Those are the ones that ran into everything. So it's just like, I guess they're dead.
Yeah,
Oh,
they have
quick-
a little less survivability than Petra.
Quick aside. So my second playthrough, I was trying to like force feed Byleth only light magic, holy magic, and like trying to take away this security blanket sword constantly. I don't think his character or like his natural growth stats
He's not
allow
built
for that to really
magic.
happen.
No.
Yeah,
He's honestly, or not he, Byleth is honestly not very well built for anything outside of the sword that I've experimented with so far. He's got some wild crit ability with the spear, or I guess with like lance weapons, but they take so damn long to develop that he's kind of useless until that point.
it's a huge disappointment in a game that's all about replayability.
Right.
Why do you not have like more flexible growth patterns for the entire cast, but I guess specifically the main character?
Well, because they didn't make an axe of the creator, and yet on my third playthrough, I'm going to try it anyway.
But to be real, like I don't think the sword of the creator is really all that necessary anyways.
No, I never use it unless it's like the final fight. And then in most cases, for like these really big bosses that need to get crushed, I just walk Lysithea up and one-shot them. So Byleth can like
Dark spikes.
continue to stand in the corner. Holy shit, her and Hubert, now that I've played 2 of the 3 houses, Lysithea and Hubert are probably the most broken units I've ever used in a game. And I'm talking about, I had the like 100% crit chance berserker of Ross in Sacred Stones.
Yeesh.
Yeah.
Dude, I don't know. Shannon, there's SETI in Fire Emblem 4 that like if you gave him the canon parents, he just had more or less like a 5% chance of getting hit by anything, and then the best spell in the game that could be repaired.
Mm-hmm.
Like that guy's pretty broken. But Lysithea's, yeah, ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
My first time through, I didn't get the item that doubled her range.
Oh yeah,
So
without the
the
range, she's kind of fragile, but with the range, I don't know if units can reach her. And Hubert has that range built in with the dark spells that he learns, so you don't even need an item to extend it. If you do have an item to extend it, he becomes even further untargetable than Lysithea is.
The only thing that has me wondering, though, is who do I pair up with Lysithea on this playthrough?
Because what playthrough are you doing? Golden Deer?
Yeah, so I'm thinking maybe Raphael and Lysithea. A match made in heaven.
Who is a fair pairing? I don't think that's it. I honestly don't know if she can pair with anyone besides Edelgard. Her and Edelgard are a fucking team. And if you're not doing Ignatz Raphael, you're missing out on the best like buddy pairing you're gonna find.
Wait, do they have an A rank together?
I think so, yes. Well, because it takes quite a few ranks for Raphael to be like, dude, you got to stop obsessing over my dead parents.
Raphael's supports are great. Like so because I'm using them now, I get more of his support ranks, right?
Right. May I guide you to at least try his support conversations with Marianne, because
don't worry. I've committed myself to getting Raphael's like max support on everyone.
Uh-huh.
Cause like I just went through 4 C ranks in a row. And like each of them are just like, hey, Raphael's being stupid and it doesn't get the hints in this conversation. All right, that happens again and again and again, but each time the situation is like
More outrageous.
different and hilarious in like a way separate from the last.
Yeah.
He's like not even jokingly, he's one of my favorite characters in the Fire Emblem universe.
I would agree. There are 3 like truly phenomenal support conversation characters. Raphael is one of them, and then probably baking in Bernadetta and Linhardt as well.
Yeah.
Bernadetta being convinced everyone will kill her in the first like C and B conversations are just amazing, especially pairing with the fact that her special ability is that she does extra damage when she's hit. She's like, oh no, it's do or die, Bernie. Time to wreck. Like she's so funny. Her voice acting is so good. I never ever skip through that dialogue. I let the voice actor do her thing on it. And then Linhardt being the like, I don't even want to fight. Why am I in a war? Like lazy character is also a true delight to witness. Everyone else is like, man, if only you applied yourself. And he's like, and yet I will apply myself to this nap over here, out of the way.
Did you?
So we're gonna go training, right? Yeah, of course we're gonna go training.
I'm gonna go train my sleeping skills right now.
Did you get Ferdinand and Bernie to rank A?
Ferdinand and Bernie. Yes. Yeah.
That was actually like a nicely written.
It was very
nicely written support conversation.
Ferdinand is also an interesting character. I do really, really like the Black Eagles. The Golden Deer are fun, but I think the Black Eagles in general have better like support communications amongst one another and cohesion. Ferdinand has some creepy ass dialogues with Manuela if you ever get there.
I started doing them this time through, and they're weird.
They are weird.
Which one's Manuela?
Every character outside of Casper on the Black
yeah.
Eagles is I think fun. I really
and Casper
don't
has
care
a
for
couple
Casper.
decent ones too.
You can believe that.
A couple decent ones.
I liked Caspar and Dorothea. Those were good ones. Brother sister type of thing where Caspar's like, hey, Dorothea, you're looking pretty hot. Dorothea's like, you're like a brother to me. And then after a while, she's like, I could see myself with you. And then I give her the ring. And she's like, oh, yeah. Then it's sexy pinup picture at the very end for me. I chose Dorothea.
When I got my end of game screen, most of my units did not pair up.
Oh, that's a bummer.
Yeah, like I had very few I had plenty reach A ranks, but it was just like it was a lot more like friendship cooperative duos as opposed to pairing up. And honestly, I think the first pairing I saw was Ignatz and Raphael, like best buddies for life. So I'm hoping that to remedy that with the ending of this next playthrough with the Black Eagles, where Ferdinand has reached level A support with everyone else first. So
Ferdinand gets his choosing.
Yeah, we'll see how that works. I don't know if that's like actually the thing. If it's like the first units to rank A together get that, or if it's like there's a preference or there's a randomization or what. I don't know how that works at the like pairing epilogue.
Yeah, I wish I knew on that regard too.
It made much more sense in other games like Awakening.
I really wish that the DLC that comes out at the end of the year is going to be a golden route. I don't know if you necessarily feel the same, but I'm starting to become less and less satisfied with each ending I've gotten so far.
What is a golden route?
You solve every problem. You don't.
Every problem's taken care of. Everyone survives.
I don't see how you have a happy ending between it. I won't go into spoiler territory. I don't see how you take all of these like conflicting wants and desires and like make them work. What I understand from say the Black Eagles route is I actually see unfortunately, like I'm fighting against Claude right now in the game, but I can see how if like ego wasn't involved, Claude and Edelgard have like very similar like goals or sensibilities.
So you did not choose to betray Edelgard?
That's correct.
Okay. So
Ride or die, baby.
When
She's
when
a
you
better
get to
unit
the
than
end-
Byleth.
When you get to the end of your of your path, I think that's when we can do our spoiler cast to actually get into detail, because I'm guessing, I could be wrong, but I'm guessing Golden Deer does not also address like the huge elephant in the room for me personally in this whole narrative that only gets addressed with the Black Eagles. And it's not what you're thinking. You don't even
I am thinking about
I know
it.
you want to guess, but it's not what you're thinking.
Okay.
And I'm pretty sure this doesn't get addressed in the betray route either. And it definitely doesn't get addressed. In fact, it gets worse in the Blue Lions route.
Okay.
So
What is this?
you'll have to wait until next week. Next week maybe, or whenever you get done. I don't want to rush you, Scott.
Oh, I'm close. I'm trying to finish it. I got some plans for today, but after that, I mean, Fire Emblem is like primary on the docket. September 20th is coming up fast, and some good games are releasing then.
As our chat fills up with Fire Emblem memes.
Well, what can you do?
All right, I think that does it for this episode of Fancy Ramen, episode 131, The Return.
The return of the 3 ramens?
Oh, I was going to say, how do you pronounce Atelier?
Oh, yeah. I like that as well.
What?
Atelier Sophie? Or Sophia?
Your game that you talked
Yeah.
about.
Let me
Cooking Mama
do
for
the
Alchemists.
Atelier.
Wait, is that how?
It's a French word. Yeah. Atelier.
Atelier? Atelier?
Atelier.
Atelier? Holy
Atelier.
shit, I never knew.
The French like to they can clock their own by how well you pronounce their words.
Wow.
Yeah.
Atelier. Atelier.
We're going to intro this episode with Neil pronouncing Atelier like 6 or 7 times to lock it in. Well, it's been fun. Yeah, please tell your friends how to pronounce Atelier, spelled Atelier, and also tell them about the podcast where they can learn both pronunciations.
Also, there's this new thing out there called iTunes Podcast where you can leave reviews. Don't hesitate to leave a review. Good, bad, doesn't matter.
Yeah,
Just do that.
if there's one factor for Fancy Ramen, don't hesitate on anything. Reviewing, telling people about the podcast in your daily life, hesitation is the enemy.
Atelier is another accepted podcast at fancyramen.com for contact and questions. Have a great week, everyone.